afternoon. What's new? A little bit more on something I've spoken about in another blog about a talk I gave at Parliament of Victoria, looking at the future of government online. And I drew them back to the architecture of the building. If you've ever been to Parliament, they will give you in the tour the beautiful lecture of 140 years of history of the architecture of the building. It is the People's House. They are proud and live the dream of this being the People's House. It is access of the people to democracy. But it's measured, it's controlled, it's structured. In the chamber itself, the public is welcome, but they are in the gallery and they must remain silent. There are rules. If you stand up and speak, you'll be kicked out. In the hallways, they are the places where you can meet with ministers, you can talk directly to your parliamentarian. In the lobby, more open access still. On the steps of Parliament, place of protest. Are those protests held under the auspices of Parliament? Or are they a public thing, but does anyone think that was not in the original design of the building, that was a place where public could come to the steps? So in designing the online presence, this proud history, this proud tradition, the deep thinking and culture and openness and the deep cultural aspect of the institution of Parliament that is embedded in the architecture of their building should best be reflected in the architecture of electronic outreach. And yet at the time of my talk, and I believe it may have changed since, the entire web presence was being run by the library. There was no involvement of senior officials, there was no involvement of politicians, there was none of this leadership vision about outreach to community, except as was done by the library. But I put it to them basically, can you imagine that the architecture of Parliament and the building itself had been 140 years ago left to the library to do on their own without support? Not something they could really easily see. It caused a bit of controversy. That's what I was brought in to do. Something to think about in your own culture and your own presence, and how you can get your own personality and your own organisation to be reflected in the outreach that you create electronically.